Let's go right. I'm Linda Deir, the author of Guided. Her spirit guide angels were her best friends and life coaches. Guided is my true life story and winner of the 2017 International Body, Mind, Spirit Book Award. Since I was 2 years old, I've seen, communicated with, and even photographed my spirit guide angels. In Guided, I use my own life as a template to teach you what I learned from these loving, intelligent spirits. Most importantly, I show you how to make the connection to your own spirit guides and angels so you can live a guided life, a life free of fear and doubt, the life you intended to live before you got here. This week, with the help of my spirit guides, I will be sharing my journey through fear. The fear you are feeling is real. It keeps you from being who you really are. It prevents you from making clear decisions about your life so you can live the life you intended before you got here. Once you identify the fear, the doubt will be gone and you will have your life back. So let's get started. This world is only fearful when we are disconnected. The biggest vulnerability we have in this life is being disconnected. That's when we become fearful. The disconnection and lack of compassion is what scares people into fear, the opposite of love. Living a fear-based life becomes repetitive and leads to a form of insanity that takes your life over. It festers into a constant feeling of lack, causing you to chase things outside of your control, like happiness, money, relationships, a better job, a passionate life for living. Fear, along with society's pressure to consume more of everything, powers this perpetual chasing. The inability to have enough keeps you frustrated, depressed, and fearing the future even more. Fear also leads to addictive behaviors. Not knowing, emptiness, and loneliness you feel are fear-driven and can become debilitating. You then look for ways to medicate these situations and feelings with drugs, alcohol, food, sex, and a non-stop consumption of stuff. You falsely believe that new things will bring happiness and purpose into your life. Only when you are not paralyzed by fear can you see beyond it, seeing things and people for what they really are. This clarity is only possible when you are connected. You see, truth and love are the same thing. You know the truth and experience love when you are connected to your spirit guides and angels, receiving their guidance and clarity all of the time. When you don't think there's anything else and you feel alone, you experience the worst kind of disconnection. It's like being frozen and stuck in some kind of limbo. This is the same feeling that someone who lived a fear-based life feels when they die from this world. The fear keeps them stuck. This life is about healing the fear while we are still here, because it will follow you and continue to limit you. I was shown this in the merry-go-round dream I had for the first 35 years of my life, that we came here this time to heal this limitation once and for all. In my case, it was life-threatening fear that I experienced at such a young age that pushed me through it. It was just too much. That's when I made the connection to my guides and instantly saw what they saw. I saw everything for what it was, the truth. This was the first time I felt loved. I felt like myself. Here's what happens the instant you overcome the fear and have this connection to your own guides. You will see everything for what it is. This is when love and truth come together and fear loses its power over you. No more drama, exaggeration, or hype. The truth is the truth. The consequence of this awareness and higher way of living and understanding followed me throughout my life. I seemed to be the only one who knew this. It was a feeling of disappointment because, like everyone else who sugar-coated things, I didn't. I couldn't. And that made me an outcast. Once I had this connection, I could not pretend things were different from what they really were. Although this was profound, it just went against the established norms, and that was sobering. To have a starting place to overcome your fear, do something to help someone else. This act of compassion will start to rebuild the connection and love to your own guides. Once you see fear for what it is, it will feel like you are the only sober person on the planet. You will be operating on a higher level, experiencing things in new ways. You will like who you are. Okay, so we're going to take this opportunity to chat about this a little bit. By the way, this subject of fear is the first topic in the companion journal to Guided, the newest book that I just wrote and published, My Guided Journey. It's available on my website at lindadeir.com. That's Linda, D-E-I-R.com. And you can get it right there on the home page. And you can download it for free. And it is designed to help you walk through the first thing that knocked you off your path in this life, fear. It may be something that you don't remember, but it was there. And it definitely had a life-changing effect on your life and caused you problems to this day, as in terms of you being who you are authentically are, allowing you to live the life you intended, okay, before you got here. So your guides, your spirit guides, your angels, came here with you in this life. You just didn't get dropped off here to fend for yourself. So you really don't have anything to be fearful about, as long as you remember that they are there and you are never alone and always being guided. So fear is something that, it's like I said at the beginning of this, it's lack. It's where you feel like they might not be there or you are alone, and it's just not true.
Tell me about the life-threatening fear. You described your fear as life-threatening, yet you were very young. You were a baby. How does a baby have life-threatening fears?
Okay, well, if any of you have read my book, it all starts with my flagship book, Guided. In my book, Chapter 1, the trailer, Ray put the trailer up before our session tonight. Chapter 1, trailer for Guided, talks about the fear and the impact of that fear. And in my case, I started out in my life 20 months old. My mom almost killed me at 20 months old when she beat me so badly that I really didn't expect to wake back up into this world. At 20 months old, I didn't have any reasoning. but I did know, and I was aware. And I understood this fear where she almost killed me, and I didn't expect to wake up back up into this world. That's when I really felt the fear hit, is when I found myself right back here, okay? So I understood at that point, without understanding anything, I knew that the worst thing in the world wasn't being where we came from or where we're going after we're done here, but how we get through this life, all right? And some of us have more challenges than others, but the fear in my case was so overwhelming that I actually, it was so powerful that it pushed me through the fear, and that's when they all appeared to me, all around me. And my life was changed forever. I saw everything for what it was. I was absolutely clear about what was going on and what was happening in my life, and how there really wasn't anything to be afraid of, even though my mom was dangerous. I knew that ultimately there's really nothing to be afraid of, because this is not all there is. That's the bottom line. So why should we let anybody fear us into anything? Why should we ever let fear control us and ruin the life we came here to live? I mean, we bothered to come here, to go through all this, growing up and vulnerability as a child, and not knowing what to do next, and having to learn this all over again. We do this time and time again, come back here to learn what we didn't learn the last time. So why would we let somebody fear us out of our life? But that's what happens. People actually get so scared that they're paralyzed and can't move through it. They can't think. So actually somebody else doing the thinking for them and telling them how to live and think and love and everything is kind of convenient when you've been scared that badly, all right? In my case, I was scared so badly, it pushed me right through it. And so that's how I got through it. It is one way to get through it, you guys, but hopefully you won't need to get that much fear going on to actually overcome it. Now, as an adult, you can look back at it and go, okay, I can take this journal. I can take this journal and follow the steps that Linda went through and overcome this. Identify it first, and then write it out. Let it show itself, and overcome this by understanding it, without the drama, without the fear, but just the sobering truth. Okay, because that's ultimately where you're going to wind up. You are going to wind up so clear and connected that no fear could ever control you again. I can tell you, because this is my life.
So people don't bring the fear with them when they choose to come here into this life.
No.
Nobody does.
Right.
So how does the fear gradually creep in? It just doesn't one day appear.
Right, that's exactly
And debilitate you.
Well, that's right. Fear, one sneaky way that fear gets in there that really gets a hold of you and you don't notice it happened, it's when something happened where it was fearful, but you took the blame. Can you imagine that you did that? But you can't imagine. Little kids do that all the time. An example of that is when their parents break up. The first thing a kid does is they take the blame. Oh, was it my fault? Did I cause too much trouble for my mom and dad? And is that why they broke up? It's interesting how responsible a little baby or a little child is compared to an adult. An adult will go, well, that wasn't my fault. They'll defend it. Well, that's when fear has completely taken your life over. And now you're defending your actions, even when they're wrong. So that's how fear gets out of control. It sets you off on the wrong path, and you just keep going down that path, but you're not aware of it. You don't even realize why you're on it, or that it's even there, okay? So that's one example of it, right? It sneaks up on a little kid. A little kid wants everyone to get along. A little kid wants everything to work out. And when it doesn't, the little kid will think about things and try to figure out how to make it work again or make it work in the first place. So that's how it starts out. It starts out because you come in so pure and so willing to make things right. You come in with love. You come in with an open heart, okay? You don't judge anybody. You love all of them. So you're pretty vulnerable.
So where does the fear come once you get to school? How's fear instilled into a young child? Get away from the baby, but past kindergarten, when you get in grade school, what happens?
You want to fit in. You want to fit in. And you will do anything to fit in.
So what are you afraid of?
Everything.
You're
afraid of not being liked. You're afraid of being bullied. You're afraid of not getting good grades. You're afraid of looking stupid. You're afraid of not being pretty enough, smart enough, dressed nice enough, having the best phone, the best friends, the most Facebook friends. I mean, where do I end with this? It's all about lack. And that's where the kids' socialization, the TV, the internet, it all makes people feel lack. And you're far from lacking anything. If you go back to the beginning and you identify the first fear, so you could literally lay it down in words right in here in this journal. Lay it down in words so you can finally identify it and prove it. Prove it's in here. It's proof that it happened. It's proof where you got off track. You put it in here, and what you do is you ask your guide. You say, okay, I have identified the fear. Help me move through this. Help me understand this. I am open. I did my part. Help me start from the beginning again and get on the right track and off this perpetual merry-go-round, okay, of poor choices, unhappiness, lack, chasing things. That's all fear, you guys, you know. And you break the connection to your guides when you're living in fear. They can't reach you.
I think it's important to talk about more about the school. It's not really lack when you go to first grade. I mean, what is it that you lack? But it's more. Isn't it more about conformity?
What's the difference, Ray?
Well, you didn't know you lacked anything.
Yeah.
But pretty soon you see these other kids, and they may be dressed better than you, or they may be smarter than you, or they may be more athletic than you, and you never get picked for sports, you know.
Well, then you're not good enough, right?
So you're looking to conform.
Well, lack comes first. You feel that threat that you're not good enough. And conforming is bargaining. Now you're trying to think, it's moving through the fear, the lack, and then, like Ray said, Ray said the conformity, that's the bargaining. Now you're bargaining with this weak state of being, this sliver of yourself. Hardly any of you is really present because you are way more powerful than that. So you have shrunk yourself down into this unworthiness, and that's what it is, right? That's how it happens. It's a compromise. It's a step-by-step compromise, and more compromise and more compromise, to the point where you can't believe that this is all there is. And then you get into your life like you are, and you go, something is wrong with this. And you're right. Something's been wrong with this for a long, long time.
So outside of the kids, how do the teachers instill fear into you as a new student, or as a student, as you go through school?
Well, the teachers actually, they have a protocol they have to go by. They've been educated to program you, to make you think a certain way, to make you learn certain things, and what you learn, an outcome, is fixed in concrete. This is what it is. You either learn it and you understand it and you remember it and you pass the test, or you don't. okay?
Or you'll get a bad grade. You'll get punished.
Well, you'll get a bad grade. I don't know that they punish you nowadays, Ray.
Well, the bad grade would be a punishment, you know.
Well, it could be. Some kids would look at the bad grade like a star, like, you know, like to hell with you. I mean, a lot of kids feel like that now because they know something's wrong. They know it's not that they're bad kids. I don't think they are at all. I think that they're angry. They know something is wrong with this. This is not the way you teach anybody. I mean, you don't need to go to school to learn like this. So it's not very creative. It's not dignified, is what I want to say. And these kids don't feel validated. They don't feel like a person. They feel like a score. You know, they have to get a certain grade. They have to.
Right.
Okay, that's what it is. They have to remember things. They're not learning anything. They're remembering and repeating things. And they know the gig's up. The kids know.
So everything starts to get measured along the way. I mean, you can get from 0 to 100 on a test, okay? If you get 100, you get an A. If you get 90, you get a B. If you get, you know, C, D, E, or you flunked, you failed,
okay,
an F.
Yeah.
Now, once you get into that mentality of a score, the fear becomes your score won't be good enough to do the next thing you have to do. Like,
right.
All right. Like,
you're already penalized.
Right. Okay. So you get into high school now, and
you're way behind the 8 ball.
Right. You maybe didn't get into the high school you wanted to, if you wanted to get into a private school, but you're in high school, and here comes another score, the ACT test scores. Now, why do you have to get a high score on that? Well, if you don't, you won't get into a good college.
So
you won't be able to get.
Okay, so you won't, and you won't, and you won't, and you won't.
Right. And
so,
if you don't get into that good college, what else happens?
Okay, so what happens here? What Ray's doing? He's taking us down the rabbit hole, and he's showing us that how it starts, where it starts, and all of a sudden, because everybody's in compliance with this, they all abide by the same tactics. Okay, they're fear tactics. Because if you don't do this, you don't pass that, you don't get to go to the next level and the next level. It's like a pyramid. I mean, you really don't get to go. So what that means is that there's a consequence, is really what it comes down to. If you're not driven by fear, and you're driven more by your passions, and you're who you are, and you take the risk of living that out at the cost of not having all those levels in play, for you to set up a future for yourself that's set in stone. But not really, because these kids go to school, they go to college and they've got the best grades, and they still can't get jobs. Okay, so I mean, really, you guys, it used to be 40 years ago, if you had a college education, it probably made a difference, all right? But now, everyone gets one. It's like you're just one of the homogenized whole. You're not special. You're not anything. You have a college degree, and actually, by the time you get out of college, it's obsolete because things are moving so quickly technologically that everything you learned is pretty much, it's not useful. All right. So again, it's fear-fed. It's fear-based. And who did it benefit? Did it benefit, in the end, did it benefit you and your family? Or did it benefit other people and institutions or whatever that convinced you that you were nobody and nothing and you didn't stand a chance? Fear, the ultimate fear, and the fear for your kids, that if you didn't do this, then you really didn't stand a chance. Okay, so right?
I think so, and it just continues to snowball.
Feed off each other.
Well, it does. I mean, you didn't get a good ACT test, and therefore you couldn't get into a good college. You didn't get into a good college, therefore you can't get the job you wanted. You won't get hired. You won't get hired in the job you wanted. If you don't get a good job, you won't make a lot of money. And here comes your next score, is your credit score. You won't be able to buy things with all that money you're going to make, and get in debt and pay off your credit, and get in debt and pay off your credit, and drive your credit score up. Then people become, I hate to say it, slaves to these numbers.
That would be That's well said.
An imaginary number.
That's well said. That is what it is. And it's all fear-based, okay? Now, when you think of fear, now, a lot of people don't think of fear like Ray just explained it, but if you think of fear, a lot of people think of it like, well, if somebody was going to kill my family, that would be fearful, okay? Well, yeah, that's another level of fear. If somebody threatened my family, that would probably get my attention a lot more than my credit score or my SAT test or how somebody thought I should dress or who someone thought I should love or what people think of me. It doesn't really motivate me because for those of you who know me right here.
I mean, when somebody threatens to kill you when you're a baby and tries to destroy your life for the first 16 years of your life, you're 21, you're not even 2 years old, and somebody's threatening to kill you.
Not threatening.
They're trying every day to destroy you because they've told you they're going to destroy you by beating the spirit out of you. That's a real threat.
What fear does, let's talk about the upside of fear for a minute. Fear sobered me up. And I talked about that at the beginning of this Facebook Live. Fear was sobering to me because with the fear, it pushed me through it. It was so tremendous. It pushed me through the fear that all of a sudden, they all appeared to me. I could make the connection. They could finally reach me, all right? Because the fear was so out of control. I literally popped right through it. It was too much. And when fear gets to be too much, that's when you throw in your hat and go, you know what? I'm done playing this. This is not right. Something's wrong with this. So fear does have its place. Fear can make you so angry. It could make you just dig your heels in and go, no more. Or tell your boss, you know what? Your fear tactics about you're going to fire me if I don't this or I don't that. Watch me walk through that door.
Right.
Watch me walk through it and don't come back. So fear can only work as long as you let it work. What do we have?
Well, you answered the question. Denise has asked, does anger come from the fear?
Absolutely. It's a rebellion against the fear. It's telling the fear, no more. No more. You can kill me, and still I won't respond to the fear because I'm that mad. So that's where fear can work in your favor. It can give you your I've had enough day, and that is it. You won't abide by it. You won't comply by it. You won't respond to it. You won't cave into it. No one can control you when you take that approach. Now, if you take anger to an extreme, then anger can work against you too, right? So fear has its place where you use fear to get you out of fear. You let the anger work for you. It worked for me for years. And then one day, when I least expected it, at the end of my 20s, the career I had created and the anger issues that I worked through from being in that career, in one day, Denise, it was over. And I was going, wow, I can't believe that that's it. I mean, I've got to find another way to make a living. That was game over. But I was set up to go through that unwittingly. I didn't even realize it until it was done. And my guides made me aware of the fact. It was very simple, the way that they put it to me. Your fear is over now, or your anger's over now, Linda. So real estate will never be the same for you again. I was like, oh.
I mean, were you fearful of that? Were you fear that
a little bit?
They told you everything you've done for the last 10, 12 years
was over.
Was all of a sudden done.
I know. Okay, to them, it doesn't look like a career to the guides. It looks like mission accomplished. Let's move on. Okay? That's what it looked like to them. But the work I had in front of me, what I had to learn and grow into and develop from that, the part of me that it was time for me to come out and let my real self breathe into that and become more of who I am, that scared me because I didn't even know how to start. I had such a great run. And so that's where success can work against you. because it was so good for so long, Ray? So yeah, but I got through it and I worked through it, and the part where I got to work in dream classes and start to really get to know myself that way, I loved it, and it's led me to where I am today. So
let's talk about the fear-driven consumption. You said in the first part of the session about people feel that if they had more of something, then they'd be happy. If they had more money, they'd be happy. If they had a different job, they'd be happy. If they had a different relationship, they'd be happy. How does fear keep that whole thing rolling?
Well, it's fear that makes you reach for it in the first place. None of these things are yours. They show up. You can't chase any of these things. They find you. And it's all about timing. When you've done your inner work, you've done your work. You've worked through your challenges, your shortcomings, your hang-ups. You worked through them. My guided journey, the companion journal to guided. When you've worked through it, the reward is you graduate. I don't mean you get a scorecard or something like that. I mean that you truly graduate as a person. You become more than you were before you got here. And you naturally attract to you something that's equal to that. So that's what that is, right?
Well, it's a fear that you're not something. You're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not rich enough, you're not smart enough. But as you get smarter, you still have the same feeling.
You do?
A lot of people do.
Yeah. How do they?
I'll feel like I'm a more important person, or if I get a new car, and you get a new car, and that feeling lasts about 2 months, or maybe 2 weeks, or 2 days. So why do you still, after you get what it is that you felt you lacked, you were fearful that you didn't have enough of this, and you get it, why are you still fearful?
Okay, well, because you are a work in progress. You accomplished something regarding your fear. You overcome a piece of the fear. Let's say you were afraid of your boyfriend leaving you, and you did your inner work about self-love. You did the inner work about being enough for yourself, about you are pretty enough, you are smart enough, you are enough, okay? And the fact that you and your boyfriend broke up, or girlfriend broke up, it's just that you guys were missing it. You weren't lining up with each other. It's not to be taken personally. So when you take things personally, that really mucks up the water. You gotta look at things objectively. You gotta stay objective. It's part of the beginning steps of overcoming the early fears that you start to unearth when you start to document them right here, okay? When you start to get into it. And when you get and you unearth those and you write them in there, when you go into some of these tailspins that Ray was talking about, some of these regressions where you go back into fear, and I mean, you wrote it in here, why should you be experiencing fear again? It's because it's had an opportunity to play its part in all these different places that Ray mentioned, relationships, a new car, the quality of your job, the house you live in, the clothes you wear, the way your kids look, I don't know, anything, okay, all of it. And you've got to work, and it's like unraveling. It's like a ball. It's unraveling now. And you're backing up, and you're having to relive your life again, like replay, but differently, and unraveling it and doing it differently, okay? So it compounds, and even the people in your life, your kids, your husband, your wife, they expect you to behave a certain way, like the person they met. But is the person they met the person you really are? There's always going to be that's in there, you guys. And so the longer you take to take a look at this fear, the more complicated and convoluted your life becomes, and the more you have to kind of put people on notice. Hey, I want you to know that I am going to be making some changes, because I know I'm off track on things, and there's parts of me that even you, husband, wife, kids that don't like, and I don't like them either. And the only way for me to work this out is to go back and work through it. And I'm going to be quite different when I'm through this. I hope you still love me, like me, want me around. But if you don't, I'm going to love me, like me, want me around. That's the bottom line. That's why I talked about I became an outcast, because I literally didn't fit in to the social norms. As a kid, as I learned this, people would say to me, they go, "But Linda, you figured it out so young. You don't have to work at this. Work at this." I kept my story quiet until I was 60 years old when I wrote my book, Guided. I didn't tell anybody about what I knew, learned, the way I lived, the way I thought, why I was so successful. I couldn't tell any of them anything. They just looked at me and said, "But you make it look so easy." It is easy, you guys. It's easy when you know who you are and you don't live in fear.
Some people live their whole life in fear. I mean, did they just get comfortable with the fear, or did they get comfortable with the lack? I mean, you see a lot of very, very wealthy people who are not happy. They don't feel they lack money, but now they have all this fear of keeping their money protected.
Right. That pretty much lets you know where you stand. When you wind up with a plate full, okay, and everybody else just gets crumbs, but you're doing really well, it lets you know where you are. It's like a litmus test. And if you're more fearful of losing the money that you have than enjoying the comforts of having a fear-free life, really, you've got the ability of all people to be fearless, fear-free, because you don't have that burden on you, right? But like Ray said, that's not very common. So even wealthy people, you would think they're wealthy. They must have figured this out. Not at all. In fact, some of the most wealthy people are the most fearful. Don't you think, Ray?
The ones I know.
Yeah. They're the most fearful. And then the money, it kind of turns against them, their power, their money, their influence. It could be any number of currencies, love. Everybody loves them. And then all of a sudden, they lose they're knocked off their pedestal, off their ivory tower, and they're scorned by their fan base. Well, that's the same thing that's the same hurt and fear as if you had money and you went broke. All of a sudden nobody loves you. Well, see, it comes back to yourself. It's why you got to go back to the beginning to discover who this self was, the one that came into this world without any limitations, knew how to love itself. It knew how to love everybody until it was pushed into these different ways of, oh, you can't do that, you can't think that, you can't go there, you've got to get better grades, like Ray said, you know, all the things you can't be, you can't do, instead of just being who you are and being comfortable in that. My way of doing it was to not let anybody know. I felt like a double agent in my childhood. I kept it to myself. I had my guides by my side. And I mean, I'm telling you, you guys, it was, without them, I never would have made it.
I mean, you think people, with these feelings of lack and their fears, living a fear-based life, making fear-based decisions. I mean, for example, a person struggling financially, okay? They were living paycheck to paycheck, and now they're living less than paycheck to paycheck. I mean, but their friends tell them to, well, just declare bankruptcy. Go see a bankruptcy lawyer, declare bankruptcy. But here's where that, I've told a lot of people that. I said, you know, you're in a position, you're a candidate for bankruptcy. And they go, oh, but that would ruin my credit score.
Right.
So, so they're
fear.
A slave to that number. They have a fear that if they lose that credit rating, that credit score, they won't be able to buy all this stuff anymore.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain this a little bit differently. Fear is the driving force. It's who's driving the car behind the steering wheel. All these other things about, what about my credit score? What if I lose my house? What will people think? That's everyone else in the car. Okay, but fear is the one that's steering your life. Everything else is a byproduct of fear that is influencing you, all right, and controlling you. So it's all comes down to fear. If you just take all this drama and this hype going on and these threats going on in your life, and you just go, okay, I can't handle all that. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to call it one thing and then clean all this up so I can look at it. It's fear. It's just fear. If I can stop fear where it started, right over here in the beginning, if I can stop it where it started, if I can identify it, and I can then look at it, instead of having it right here and not being able to see it, but actually look at it, I can go, okay, what in my life is this fear controlling in my life right now? What kind of control does this one thing, step one, page one, fear, how is it controlling my marriage? How is it controlling letting my kids control me? How is it controlling who I work for, who I love, who I feel like, what I long for? It's all lack, okay? And it's all what it's turned into. It's the dots. It continued to develop itself and turn into this creature, okay? So in Ray's particular comment, that one of the passengers in the car, not the driver's just pure and simple fear, all right? It started long ago when you were a little baby. You got that fear twinge sent through you. But now it's running all kinds of parts of your life, okay? And let's say somebody's having financial problems and they've got too much credit card debt. They can't, their house is upside down, their car is upside down, their job is coming to an end, the tuition at school, they don't know how they're going to meet it. They've got all these things, obligations to pay. So, well, they're justified to be living in fear, right? So Ray comes up with the suggestion, and you told him what, Ray?
Declare bankruptcy.
Okay.
Start over.
Okay. So go see an attorney and see if you are indeed a candidate for bankruptcy, right? That's an option. Okay. And let's say they go and they take Ray's advice and they go and get counseling from an attorney. It's usually free, that first visit. And you bring all your financial situation, your financial records with you, and you show the attorney what you have. And they say, oh yeah, you are a candidate for bankruptcy. And this is why. And this is how it's done. This is what it will eliminate. And this is how you will have to position yourself to manage beyond bankruptcy. And these are just the facts. What is there to be afraid of? Oh, what somebody might think, your credit score. You guys, when fear is ruining your life and sucking the life right out of you, you can't breathe, you can't make a decision because you don't have any choices. You're so far in debt you can't see tomorrow, and you can't make any choices. You have to forgive yourself. Don't go forgiving anyone else. This is no one else's problem. This is yours. And you got yourself in it. You know, my mom used to say something to me. My mom was a pretty nasty lady. She said to me, she goes, you made your bed now. You have to sleep in it, right? And I would listen to her, and she'd go, the world is not a bowl of cherries. And, you know. And I always went, no. I don't believe that. I don't believe that if you find yourself in a situation that you have to die there. I don't believe any of that. And it's a good thing I didn't. My mom and my dad were raised with fear. They so well that they were so trapped in it, like Ray suggested, they couldn't get out of it. But I, on the other hand, always saw the options. I always said, you know, I'm going to try harder than anybody. I'm going to do a better job than I know anybody could do. And if that's not good enough and I fail, and I have to file bankruptcy or I had to do something like that, it's not fearful. It's an option. Thank God the option is available to me. You know, I would go, wow, I could, you know, you mean if this didn't work out, it wouldn't be debt slavery? You know, that's what it used to be like, what, 100 years ago, right, Ray?
Yep.
It's not like that anymore.
Debtor's prison.
Debtor's prison, right. It's not like that in America anyway. So you guys don't have anything to be afraid of. If you're letting fear run your life, it's because you're letting it. It doesn't mean it's real. It's an illusion.
Okay, so how do your friends react? Let's say you declare bankruptcy and you get a fresh start and you don't have any more debt, you know, and they're still
struggling.
They're still up to here in debt, struggling, trying to pay their kids' college tuition.
There's two things going on. Number one, okay, three. The first thing they'll do is the traditional thing that we've all been programmed to do to each other, and that is to judge that person, okay? The second thing that they'll feel is, well, they're getting out of their debt and I'm not. They're going to be jealous of you, okay? And then they're going to get mad at you because they see that they have the same option, that they are over their heads, and the steps that they need to take. So what you did is your actions shed light on their situation. So you make it kind of uncomfortable for them because you are being true to yourself, if that's actually the right thing to do. So it could be, this is just one of those things, like bankruptcy in your financial situation, okay? It also could be a bad relationship and you wind up getting a divorce, you know, and people have judgment around that. Again, it comes back down to, if you have to ask yourself, did you do the best that you could? Shame plays into this big time. That's what Ray's really been shedding light on here, is anytime you have fear, what keeps you sold on the fear and locked into it is shame. Shame of what somebody might think of you, or if you file bankruptcy, you're a loser, or if you walked away from your job that you hated, you know, you got fired. If you weren't happy in your marriage and you broke it off and got out of it, you got divorced. I mean, there's all these taboos that have been traditionally laid down on people to keep them from stepping out of line.
Not ever finding themselves. I mean, there's a lot of people.
But that's where it starts, right? If they step out of line, when you're a young child and you understand who you are, like I did, like I was thrown into so much fear, terrified, that it actually pushed me through it, and I met my guides and it changed everything. I was really an outcast all my life because I didn't comply. I wasn't a jerk. It's not like I didn't know the rules and I didn't know how to work with the rules, but I didn't let them nail me with them. I didn't let them fear me with them. I didn't let them fear me into a hole. I would look at them and go, really? Seriously? You got to be kidding. And it didn't work on me. And I wound up being the kid that when I saw injustices and the bullies in the playground beating up other kids and nobody did anything about it, well, if I did something about it, you know, you're going to get in trouble, Linda. Yeah, watch me get in trouble. I couldn't stand it. My head came off. So I'm just kind of like, I'm for the underdog, you guys. And so when I saw that happen, I just could not be who I was. And so when you learn to be who you are, you're going to have these real strong, you're going to know yourself so well that nobody could ever fear you back out of yourself. That's the whole point here.
So there are consequences of you feeling like that.
Yes.
Well, first of all, you grew up with a bully all your life, and you'd had enough. You were angry.
I was.
You were angry about
not being able to
being able to fight back. A bully who
stop
was
somebody.
three times your size.
Right. There was no way of stopping her. Right. That's
so.
Right.
You took out your anger. When you can't help yourself, what do?
You help someone else.
You help somebody else.
This is how I learned it, you guys. And Ray just brought out something. Ray does this all the time. I love this guy. He is amazing. But what it does is it brings out. How did you say that again? You
were angry.
Right.
Because you couldn't fight back in the home.
Right.
once you saw other people your size, other kids your size, getting picked on by people who were a little bit bigger than they were.
It goes back to helping someone who can't help themselves, right?
Right.
Okay, so when you can't help yourself, you go out and you help someone else. And this is what the whole point was. It wasn't about me taking myself and repressing it. It was about taking myself and directing it. And that's what I did. I directed it. I had the anger in me because I couldn't stop her from doing what she was doing. So the anger was there. I mean, really. But then I took it the next step by helping someone else. And so when you have this fear, you take whatever that fear is, and you go out there and you help somebody else in the arena that you seem to be dominated by that fear. And you take and you go out there and you help somebody else overcome that fear. And when you heal their lives, you heal your own life. It just goes hand in hand. That's how it works.
But getting back to the point where you change in some way, you declared bankruptcy and you got a fresh start, you had no more debt, or you did something to better yourself spiritually, you learned something else that helped you along in life, helped you understand more about who you were. All of a sudden, your friends don't want to be around you. How does that work?
Well, it comes back down to when you step into the boldness of who you are, into the powerful you, the you who came here to live this life, and other people are still holding their breath. You have to expect consequences, you guys. It's going to go along with it. You've got to be able to say, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can say they may even be the ones that cut you loose. All right. It's the way I handled it. I let them cut me loose. I was quiet about it, and they could see a change in me. And they could see that I was just going to be who I was. They couldn't push me around and fear me out of myself. And when they got sick of not being able to get me to go their way and play into what they were about and limit myself, live that limited life, and be a shadow of myself just because that's what I had to do to be in their world, then they eventually cut me out. I let them cut me out. I thought it was like, I always let them cut me out. I always just thought it was more like I had the advantage. I knew what this was, and I was gifting myself with myself, being who I was, and enjoying everything I was learning and doing and experiencing while they were not. So I just felt better off than they were. And I felt like they were the ones that really were running on empty, so I couldn't hurt them more by cutting them out. I had to let them do that.
And a lot of the ones you really care about, a lot of the friends you really care about, that you try to help, that you have the ability to help.
I know.
You see they're going the wrong direction. You see that
But Ray, they're not, Ray, because what they're doing is that's their life path. Believe it or not, even if it doesn't look impressive, they're doing the best they can, and really, that's their quickest way home. That's how they're learning their lessons. I'm not there to judge that.
No, they might have to come back and do it all over again.
Well, we most of us will have to come back and play this again. I mean, it's just what the guides told me. Here's what they said. When I had this dream, the first chapter of Guided, they came to me in that dream, and they kept sending me the merry-go-round dream, and the message in that dream was that, and here's what they told me. They said, most people will die having lived fear-based lives, okay? Because they've lived a fear-based life. And that was my job in this life, was to help the ones who could be reached to understand that that's what was going on, and for how they could step out of it and live the life they intended, not die living a fear-based life. This is my job. This is why I had that dream, the same dream, every night for 35 years. The guides, where I came from, my mission in this life, that was a life destiny dream, was there to help you guys step out of this, all right? That's what this was all about. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm telling you, you guys, this is not supposed to be hard. This is not supposed to hurt you. You will find yourself having to reshuffle the deck, and there will be some consequences, because not everybody's going to want to go your way. They're going to look at you like you've lost your mind. What's wrong with you? How could you do this? How could you change so radically? You know, you really didn't change. You just let go of who you were not.
Right. This nonconformity thing is a desirable trait after all.
Yeah, it turns out to be. I paid the early price for it when I really still didn't understand what it was, but I could not be. Once I had this connection with my guides and I experienced this, I couldn't pretend that things were different than they were. I would have been a fake because I knew better. I knew different. I knew the truth. So I had a peek at something, and people look at me now and they go, wow, Linda, you really had the advantage. Did I? I mean, yeah, I built my life on me, on who I was, on my truth, on who I knew I was, and with my guides always with me by my side. That's pretty awesome. That's why as soon as I left the house and I got out with my life at 16 years old, my life took off. Nothing could stop me. I was overjoyed because I had built myself on a solid foundation, not on sand, not on who I was told to be and how to think. I couldn't do it. Not at all.
The only thing that changed was the person that was holding you down took their foot off your neck.
And you know what, you guys, when you step out of this fear, the consequence of having to shed some things, some people, stuff like that, it's going to be okay. You really are going to be okay. You're going to be so okay. You're going to wake up every day wanting to be here. You're going to be waking up every day with the right person in your life. You're going to be waking up every day overwhelmed with the fact, I mean, in a wonderful way, of what you get to do. Because it comes from you. It's coming from you. Not from some pressure on you, not from some threat if you don't conform or comply or produce. This will happen to you. None of that. Those are not incentives. That's a wasted life. That's living a fear-based life. And that's the worst. See, when we leave this world, you know how well you lived based on how well you leave. Right. And you leave well when you left nothing on the table, when you know you lived this life your way, when you know you did everything you came here to do and become.
Yep, and you appreciate you get rid of all of the things and all of the people and all of the situations that don't serve you, and you'll find out that everything you have left is really the things that were priceless. And you have to be content with the things that are left. More content than you were with all this other stuff. It takes
a little while to get to know this new person that is now here. That's you. That's pure, and it's real. It takes a little while to get used to it. That's why you want to slow your life down, calm your life down. You want to thin it down. You don't want a lot of stuff going on because you're literally rebuilding yourself. All right, but at least you got around to it. You guys, the dream, the merry-go-round dream, let me know that it was in this lifetime that we, as a soul group, okay, as the baby boomers, as the Generation X, as the millennials, as all of us, okay, that it was in this lifetime that we were supposed to overcome this fear. We were supposed to graduate from that fear, all right?
Okay, so what happens next? We're at about an hour. What's going to happen next week on Thursday?
Next week on Thursday, we are going to talk about asking. It's going to be the next.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, and that's the second page in the journey in part 2. is the asking part. But you have to write out the part where you first felt the fear so you can start getting back on track with your own life and claiming yourself back again. All right?
It's hard to ask the right questions, is what Linda's saying, if you still have the fear.
Right. The fear keeps you meek. It keeps you hidden. You're still hiding. If you feel like you're still hiding, it's because you're not telling it all. You got to tell what the fear is. Go to my website, lindadeir.com, and get this journal, My Guided Journey. It's a free download right on the homepage. Get it and start working with this. So as I come each Thursday, you're going to be able to follow this, and you're going to be able to work through it, you guys, and reclaim yourself, your real self.
All right. And go to your website under the blog and look for the trailers. The trailers, there's how many up there now? 6?
They'll see them.
They'll see them all.
Yeah.
And each week we will talk about a different one.
In the trailers. Okay, got it.
The trailers
okay, so,
kind of follow the journey.
So each week, before we do this Facebook Live on Thursdays, Ray's going to put, like, asking. He's going to have another trailer up, a video trailer that introduces our Facebook Live for Thursday. That is what he's talking about.
Gives you a little idea about what we're going to talk about, helps you formulate your questions. We'd like to see more questions from you. There was one question Denise had. She had a dream the other night. It was full of fear, but somehow she was trying to stop the fear. Can you really stop the fear in a dream state? That's her question.
Okay, this is an interesting time to bring this up, Denise. Is she still with us?
Yes.
Okay, Denise. Let me get my head around this. Read that to me one more time.
She had a dream that was full of fear. Somehow she was trying to stop the fear. And can you do this? Can you stop the fear in the dream state?
Okay, here's what goes on.
Changing the fear, the situation, so you can be free from it.
Okay. What the dream did in your case, Denise, is it let you know that the fear is there. It, through its energy in this dream, let you experience how it felt. That's the reason you had this dream, and it was so strong. The fear was so strong. It is helping you. I know you have this journal, all right? It's helping you remember the feeling of the fear so you can write it in to that page for fear. You need to take that dream, go back to that dream, and describe the fear you felt in that dream in here. Because that's the fear your guides want you to connect with, so you can begin to understand your fear. That's what it means. That's why you had this dream at this time. Your guides know that you're working through this. They know you intend to resolve this. They know you're going after it head on. They know that, Denise. And they're using your dreams. Your dreams are powerful. You have dreams, my gosh. You need to go back and do this. I want to hear how you did with that. You need to write out what you felt when you had that fearful dream.
Tell your friends, and we'll see you next week.
Tell your friends, you guys, and we'll see you next week. Same place, same time.